Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Ezion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. Today with Coffee with Curry, we continue with our Surrogates debate. Last week, we had an opportunity to hear questions 1 and 2, as well as 3. But we're going to start with question 3 today, and we're going to finish that out, and we're going to finish out question 4 and allow them to do their final comments. What I did was I asked if the Carney or the Potter campaigns, if they could get me a live video of their candidate sharing their thoughts on last week's Surrogates debate. At this time, John Carney campaign was not able to provide me with such information, but the Velda Potter campaign did. And I want to make sure that before we get too far into the new question, that you get an opportunity to hear from Mrs. Potter as she will extend her own greetings in her own way. I thank both Mr. Cerron Cade, who represented the John Carney campaign, and I want to thank Mr. Darren Rainey, Sr., who represented the Velda Potter campaign. It was a joy interviewing them. I want to apologize to those of you who watched last week because the voice, the music undertone was a little bit much. And we weren't able to hear them to the level that we needed to. This week, we removed it totally so that you can hear clearly what they're saying. We have an election that's coming up in September. We must vote. We must vote as if we have nothing else to do. We don't know when. They have not scheduled the debate for Governor Carney as well as Velda Potter. We don't know exactly when that's going to occur. But what I want to make sure is that you get as much information as possible so that you can make a sound decision. Remember what I said last week. It cannot be based on our emotions. It has to be based on the facts. Who will lead the city of Wilmington in a very effective manner? I wanted to be respectful to the urban lead and not have the two candidates to come on first, but I'm going to give them an opportunity to have that so you all can hear in detail from the candidates themselves. We wanted to hear from their surrogates, those who trust and have full confidence in their campaign. I happen to know both of these wonderful brothers. Both of them are very strong and positive brothers, and I love the fact that they were able to disagree without becoming disagreeable, and they were able to share their position without beating each other up. At this point, we're looking for there to be a civil conversation. So now we're getting ready to get started with the second half of this debate. But before we do, we're going to allow Ms. Potter to come and go ahead and give her response. And after she's given her response, we will go right into our Surrogates debate part 2. God bless you.
Good morning, Delaware and surrounding areas. You are now tuned in to this week's Coffee with Curry. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. with new guests every week. So grab your cup of coffee and join us on Coffee with Curry.
Hello. Hi, my name is Velda Jones-Potter, and I am a candidate for mayor of the City of Wilmington. I want to thank Pastor Curry for sponsoring and hosting and his vision of the forum that he held to allow people to hear some of the people who are citizens of Wilmington speak about the candidates who are running for mayor in this election. I think it was a real great opportunity for the public to become informed and to hear from a different perspective. So I thank him so much for presenting just a very professional and high quality forum to educate the public and the community. I am excited about what this campaign season, what this election season is creating and bringing in the way of opportunity for the citizens of Wilmington. I am very much looking forward to working together with all the people of Wilmington to create a safe, a smart, and an empowered city. We have the opportunity, working together, to create neighborhoods where people are really proud to call home, that are clean, that are safe, where services are rendered efficiently in every neighborhood, not selectively, where our education of our children is strong and their performance is enriched, where they're able to read at and above grade level, and where they're set on a path for the rest of their life to be successful as a result of the original grounding that we give them in the educational system, in the way our community supports their development as young people, and in the way we are able to establish community. And then I also see a city where people are empowered in all aspects of their individual capability, where small businesses are supported and the procedures that they face in getting permits and establishing and maintaining their business in the city of Wilmington is one that's supportive of them as small businesses, that has barriers removed and allows them to thrive, has access to capital so that they can grow and hire people locally, where people are able to have jobs right here at home so that they are part of money flowing into our community that turns over more than just once. That helps lift everyone in a community, where people, by virtue of working in jobs that pay a livable wage, that they're able to afford the housing that's placed here. We have an affordable housing crisis, one that we have got to address, both by housing that is built in a way that includes people who live here, and also that we're able to, through their work opportunities, economically are able to afford to own those homes and to rent those apartments. I am excited about the potential we have as we come to this election on September 10th. And I'm inviting everyone to please be a part of this change that's underway. This movement to put people first. This opportunity to invest in our own communities in a way that the quality of life for people who live here is improved and people are uplifted. So I'm asking you to please make note. September 10th is Election Day, and I ask everyone to come out. Check out my website, veldaformayor.com. You'll see my vision for this city. You'll see evidence of the work that I've done over the years. And I ask you to please come out on September 10th, cast your vote for a new city, a city where people are put priority. Vote Velda Jones-Potter, September 10th.
My name is Darren Rainey, and I am supporting Velda Jones-Potter for mayor of Wilmington.
My name is Cerron Cade, and I'm here today to support Governor John Carney to be mayor of Wilmington.
We're going to now move to our third question, and our third question deals with across the country and specifically within the city of Wilmington. There is a true, and this question is to you, Cerron, there is a true shortage of affordable housing.
Absolutely.
For real low-income people. When I say real, I mean, because sometimes it goes by the medium of the community, and sometimes you got a couple of people in the community who make big bucks, and it goes up. But there's a shortage for affordable housing. And over the past few years, there's been an influx of moderate to high income of units being built. Especially some of the people in the inner city will say that, you know, on the riverfront there's plenty of housing, but in the city in inner city there isn't. Does John Carney see this as a problem? Is my first question. And if so, what plans will he be proposing to rectify? And if not, why?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and it's very timely. when you ask, does John Carney believe that this is a problem? We've got about 8 budgets that we've presented so far. The last one, FY24, governor invested over $100 million into affordable housing programs, not just to create new affordable housing opportunities, but to preserve existing affordable housing units that were going to go back to market rate. And individuals who were in those units would have to figure out how to cover that cost. That was a significant investment, but I'm not going to sit here and act like that was enough because, as was mentioned before, it's not enough, which is why John Carney is running for mayor right now, because we still have more work to do. One of the focal areas that we have to make is expanding some of our existing housing programs from just subsidized rental to actual home ownership opportunities for those individuals who are participating in those programs. As was mentioned before, the solution to a lot of social ills is a good paying job. That solves a whole lot of problems for a whole lot of people. And one of the problems that it does address is giving an individual a fighting chance to be able to afford that 2-bedroom apartment or that townhouse so that they can raise their children in a safe environment. And so those are 2 areas where I think we can make a little bit of headway. The other area, we've got a lot of vacant properties that are sitting on the sidelines right now. We need to figure out how to get those properties back into the game. Those properties could be opportunities for affordable housing for city residents, but right now they're not serving anybody's purpose. In fact, they're a blight to our neighborhoods because we've got landlords, who, some of which may not even live in the state right now, who are not caring for them and are allowing them to stay as a part of a problem rather than being a part of the solution. And so we're going to have to wrap our head around how we can get these vacant units back out into the marketplace to get them back into the game. One of the ways to do that is utilizing the land bank. This past budget, the governor was successful in getting the legislature to put $1.5 million toward the land bank. Another area, in Southbridge, right down the street, tearing down Elmer Palmer and pushing to get using ARPA funding from the pandemic to build new affordable housing units on the site that Palmer used to be. We don't have to guess where he's going to be in these areas. We kind of know because we've seen how he's operated and what's kind of motivated him and what's driven him. And so while we do, we have a growing city, and as I mentioned before, we're at a crossroad. It's good that individuals who can afford to live in Wilmington are moving in. That's a positive thing. I don't want to for 1 second, make it seem like that's a bad thing. But it's not enough. We need mixed income housing. We've made over $30 million investment over the last few years in what they're doing over at Reach Riverside, which is going to provide more mixed income housing opportunities. And we've got to do more of that. And so I think those areas, getting those vacant spaces back into the game, focusing on turning subsidized rental opportunities into home ownership opportunities and helping to bring good paying jobs here to Delaware. Governor just invested over $200 million into Port of Wilmington to expand it, which hopefully is going to create another hundreds of new good union jobs right down here in Southbridge. These 3 things I think are going to be incredibly important to addressing this problem.
Okay. All right. Any disagreements?
No, I think so. Cerron, he named a couple things. One around just getting homes to that affordability point, right? There's been a lot of effort put into, right, bringing people into the riverfront, right, and the demand for the riverfront. But to your point earlier, right, it is not necessarily serving the best interest of the people of Wilmington, right? There is a lot of blight. There are a lot of homes. I think when you look at, in essence, the failure of the Wilmington neighborhood conservatory land bank, right, where wealthy investors came in, were able to buy homes and renovate them and sell them for profit, right? Those are like policies that didn't necessarily benefit the people of Wilmington.
And where does those policies come from?
So that is a combination of the current mayor, Brzezicki, right? And some state policy, right? And I think we can't ignore the fact that there's a through line between the city government and current state government, right? And the city policies that have been in place for the 8 years of almost very similarly mirrored state government, right? So, when you think about what's been going on in the city and how the policies that have made homes less affordable for residents of Wilmington, right, don't really differ much from the state policies that the Carney administration has brought forward. So a shift here to kind of think about some of the things that Velda Jones-Potter is thinking about, right?
I'm going to come to that question. I just want to make sure you were able to clarify some of the things that you may disagree with or not with the Carney administration. So you're making sure I understand, you're concerned about some of the policies that has happened over the 8 years with both offices, the mayor's office and the state office, I guess you would call it, that causes you to be reserved. I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Yes, I appreciate you for that push, and appreciate you for kind of lifting that up. That is the major concern, right? As I see it, right, there's a through line between city and state government and the policies that have been implemented that have made homes less affordable for Wilmington residents. Yes. Okay.
All right. I'm going to let you rebut on that one, if you will.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say this is a national problem. This isn't a problem that just Wilmington is facing or just Delaware is facing. This is a market-based problem that you could probably trace all the way back to Wall Street, to be quite honest with you. So this is an incredibly important issue. Again, not one that I'm going to lay on the feet of this mayor or this or Ms. Potter or Governor Carney, but something that each one of them, I'm going to lay it at their feet, is going to be the responsibility of theirs to address when they take office. When it comes to the existing policies that we've had, there's some I'm going to definitely agree with Darren about. I think that there was a time, and has been a time, when throughout our state, we've just had a focus on building. Let's just get cranes in the sky and get places up so we can address the increasing population of our state. Over the years, 20, 30 years that we've seen this population growth, I don't think there has been an intentional focus on, until most recently, on the different income levels of home buyers. And so that's an issue. I think the governor recognized when he took office that this was an issue, and has implemented policies at Delaware State Housing Authority to create greater opportunity for tax credits for individuals who want to invest in affordable housing opportunities, as well as direct investment for those who want to rehab housing. But I do agree that there is a bigger role that the land bank can play when it comes to establishing policies that are not just focused on cranes in the sky and getting as many properties out into the market, regardless of what their costs are. I think there's an opportunity here to be more specific, to be more intentional, to identify areas of growth, and to make sure that they're serving all of our residents rather than just the folks who can afford to move into the high rises down at the riverfront.
Yeah, and it was not one of my questions, but because we're discussing it, the land bank, for example, who controls the land bank?
It's a
public-private partnership.
But it seems like, and I asked that question because it seems like both entities pour into the land bank, whether it be the state.
So the state actually had not been investing into the land bank until I think most recently, when Governor Carney said, I really want to make this investment into the land bank, because he recognized the opportunity that tool can play in the toolbox when it comes to addressing these problems. And so the city over the last few years has been investing into the land bank. They got it off its feet, and I'm sure it's done some good work in targeted areas of the city that the administration is focused on. But I think in the next administration is going to be an opportunity to take a new look at the land bank and what it's capable of. Not necessarily just what it's done, but what it can do. And if there's anybody that I could trust that's going to be able to come in, take a look at something from soup to nuts and figure out how to make it work better. I've seen John Carney do it numerous times, and I'm certain that he's going to do it now.
Okay.
I think so when you think about the land bank, I think the question that we have to ask, right, is like, who's held it accountable?
Okay.
Right. It is a private-public partnership, right? But there's been a lack of accountability in ensuring that the land bank, its intent and its purposes are actually directed at meeting the needs of Wilmington residents, right? And when we take a step back and look at it, who has it actually benefited and whose interest has it actually served, right? I think a lot of Wilmington residents would look at it and say, not ours, right? A lot of folks who have been able to come in, use the land bank to flip homes and make profit, right? And that profit has not been poured back into the city, right, to support the taxpayers of the city whose tax dollars invest in the land bank. So I think that's a question that we have to ask. I do believe that Velda Jones-Potter, given her background and as a treasurer, right, city treasurer, state treasurer, and holding people accountable when it comes to money, I do think that she is most qualified and best positioned to ensure that the land bank is something that serves the interests of Wilmington residents and Wilmington taxpayers.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Let me go back to the third question that we had given to Cerron, and I want to come back to you and say, across the country, but specifically here in the city, we do have a low income housing problem, crises. It's across everywhere. But beyond the riverfront, is there any policies or procedures or thoughts that Mrs. Potter has that will help us to know that she would help in this low-income, affordable housing dilemma we're in?
Yeah, so there's a couple. One is eliminating exclusionary zoning, right, and discretionary zoning. It's something that Velda has proposed. I think the other one is around holding public-private partnerships, exactly what we just talked about, holding them accountable, right? And ensuring that the dollars invested are being used to benefit Wilmington taxpayers. Another thing we've realized, right, given this shift to remote, right, is that there are a lot of office space, office buildings that are available, right? So looking at converting office to apartments, right, to create more affordable housing. There are also some areas when we think about, so like that kind of deals with the supply, the market issue, right? But there's another side to this, and that's the income issue, right? And there's a lot of barriers that currently exist to income, right? When I think about for myself, right, how am I going to pay my mortgage, my rent, right? I have to think about my gas costs, transportation costs, right? Childcare costs, all those things factor into affordability, right? So when we think about the barriers, some of the policies that Velda is looking at is how do we reduce barriers to income so that we can ensure that people have just the income, right? How do we reduce childcare costs? How do we increase training opportunity and job training so people get more well-paying jobs, right? And have increased income. How are we engaging in tenant advocacy, right? To ensure that landlords aren't spiking the rent, right? Which we've seen over COVID, right? That kind of, we saw the cost of rent outpace the average income. Both, and that's not just a Wilmington issue, that's a national issue, right? So looking at policies and implementing policies and investing city dollars into reducing those barriers to income so that our residents can afford it, right? And then looking at those private and public partnerships and those opportunities to increase not the demand, but to increase the supply. Thank you, Cerron, to increase the supply. So you then get more supply and you get people who have more income to be able to take advantage of that increased supply.
Okay, all right. Any rebuttal?
No, I mean, I think we're in unison in kind of what we think the tools to solve this problem are. I think the land bank stands out as a tool that can be used, sharpened to solve this problem. I think that there are existing programs that are in state government that can be deployed, tax credits to incentivize developers to develop affordable housing opportunities. I think that there are opportunities to, even for those who are building some of the nicer, more less affordable units, to incentivize them or encourage them to add a percentage of affordable units into the properties that they're building and developing. I think these are opportunities that this next administration is going to have, and these are things that this governor and soon to be hopefully mayor has been focused on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come right back.
News all across the nation. Wilmington's latest headlines. Advocating for change in the community. With Dr. C.T. Curry, Kobe Owens, and Shanae Darby. Tune in to The Source every Sunday at 5 p.m.
Jason, let's go see your room.
No, that's not right. How is it? Is it good?
And we're back. What a great conversation and great debate that we've had thus far. Have an opportunity to sit and talk to two of the surrogates of both candidates, Velda Potter as well as John Carney, as they are running for the city of Wilmington's mayor. I've had an opportunity to hear many policies and some concerns, some things that they are planning to propose. Both of them have public track records. The question I want to start off by asking you, Cerron, in this segment is this. John Carney and Velda Potter are very good and decent people.
Absolutely.
They are public servants with a diverse, but in some cases, similar public track record. For those who have not decided as of yet who they plan to support in September, which of Velda Potter's policies and or plans poses the greatest threat, concern, or issue to the advancement for a healthy Wilmington in the future?
So, the way that I would answer that is one, I don't work for the campaign, so I haven't gone through all of Ms. Potter's policy items. So I wouldn't feel comfortable coming in and saying which ones are going to be most detrimental to the city. I think what I would tell someone who has not made up their mind yet is that I didn't come to this decision because of anything that's wrong with Ms. Potter. I came to this decision because of all the things that I thought were right about John Carney. And, this governor, again, I've witnessed him come into an administration with a $400 million revenue shortfall and turn that in 8 years into a $500 million surplus, and to do it all without raising taxes, by giving teachers pay raises, by supporting workers up and down our state. And so that type of leadership that I got to witness over the last 8 years, this guy could do anything that he wanted, after serving 2 years as governor. He could go be ambassador somewhere. He could go do whatever he wanted, write books, whatever. But he loves and is so passionate about this city that he's chosen to come back and serve as her mayor. And that's him. That's his passion. And so for anybody who was sitting around thinking about, which one should I choose? It's not about, Miss Potter and what's wrong with her. It's about all the things that are right about Governor John Carney, and that's the reason why I'm supporting him.
Okay. Now, I don't know is there any rebut to that before I ask you that same question?
Just a slight rebuttal.
Okay.
And I think I've named this already from a policy stance. And I agree with Cerron. John Carney he's a great guy, right? Nice guy. But from a policy standpoint, right? I think the residents of Wilmington have to consider that a Carney administration as the mayor of Wilmington, right, would be a continuation of a Brzezicki administration. As I named earlier, the policies are not different, right? In fact, I think it was not too long ago that Carney mentioned that Brzezicki was doing a good job, but I think that the residents of Wilmington would argue different, right? Velda, who is a native of Wilmington, argues something different, right? That we are not as good as we should be, right? The city is not as good as we should be, and anyone who's saying that we are doing really great right now, right, is not fully understanding what the residents and what the people of Wilmington are saying and how they are feeling at this moment. And I think that my rebuttal would be that the city can be better. The city deserves better. The people deserve better, right, than some of the policies that they've been most affected by over the last 8 years, and would be, in many cases, in most cases, affected by over the next 8 years in a Carney administration.
Okay. So you think it'll be more of a similar as current?
Status quo.
Okay.
I status quo. And when we think about primarily low income residents, Black and brown residents in Wilmington, who make up the majority of the city of Wilmington, right? Like, they have not benefited most from the policies over the last 8 years, and another 8 years would be the status quo, and that's honestly what we see and what we believe, which is that's my pushback, right? Okay. Policy wise.
Okay, all right.
So obviously, I completely disagree with that. Not necessarily because I've got an issue with Mayor Mike, but because John Carney is a different man. He's not Mayor Brzezicki. He's not Tom Carper. He's not Chris Coons. He's John Carney. And so I do not believe that he's a continuation of anyone's administration. I can point to things that this governor has invested in this city that are completely different, not only than any past mayor, but completely different than any past governor. I mentioned before $90 million brand new school, first in 50 years in Wilmington. What I didn't mention is that he also was able to generate money to build a brand new people settlement that's going to be directly across the street from the new Pritchett School, creating a campus environment, providing services and education for kids on the east side, not on the river, not on the riverfront, not over in the flats, but on the east side. Investments in the dual generation center focused on children in our communities and their families, built at the old Stubbs, and also adding $3 million to a new dual gen on the west side at Pulaski. These are investments that go directly to the heart of communities that need them the most. This idea, and I'm not saying that Darren said this, but part of the reason why I'm here is because I've heard a narrative that I'm not really a fan of, which basically says that John Carney is the same as Mike Brzezicki. And the only reason that some, not Darren, but the only reason that some of these people are saying this is just because they're both white guys. And so I'm just being real. We're going to hit the elephant that's in the room. It's because they're both white men. And that's not fair. It's not fair to John Carney, who's had 20 plus years serving as lieutenant governor, as congressman, as governor, and now is seeking to serve in the city of Wilmington as her mayor. It's not fair just to attach him because of the color of his skin. You can look at the individual record and you can see that his policies are deeply focused on communities that have not had the investment that they have deserved for years. And so that is where I wholeheartedly disagree with, a friend Darren here, but specifically with a lot of the chatter that you hear with some of the chatter that you hear from some individuals. Now, we've had events, and those events have been roundly attended by folks from all across the city, from the east side to the west side to the north side to Southbridge. And so the individuals who are coming out to support John Carney don't believe that it's a continuation of a Mike Przicki administration or any other administration. They're viewing John individually as the person that he is, and not as the person that other people might believe him to be. And so I would ask you to talk to your friends who've known him for years. I would ask you to listen to people who've worked next to him and worked alongside him to get a true understanding of the heart of the man.
Yeah. Well, and staying there for just a second, one of the grumblings that you hear on the streets, and I think some viewers would like to hear an answer to this, and that is, he's been a congressman, he's been lieutenant governor, he's now the governor. Why will he want to come back and be the mayor for the city of Wilmington?
So is that, you remember that Kobe Bryant interview where he was sitting there and they were asking him, Kobe, why aren't you happy right now? You're up 2-0. And he said, job's not done. Job's not done. What's there to be happy for? What's there to, what are you going to do a victory lap for? The job's not done. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And John Carney is the type of man that he is. He's not going to pack it in just because he's already served as governor. And people have this traditional this old school mindset of, you're a governor, you can't be mayor. Why not? Why doesn't Wilmington deserve a person who has served at the highest levels in our nation and in our state? Why doesn't Wilmington deserve an individual who has managed a state budget as finance director as well as governor of our state? Why doesn't Wilmington deserve someone who knows every single nook and cranny of our state service centers, our state service operations, that he can be able to deploy in the city of Wilmington in a way that does all the things that Darren mentioned about holistically addressing our youth? Why doesn't Wilmington deserve that? So when I hear the argument of why is he doing it, why not? Why not? Because other governors have served, and when they were finished serving, they packed it in and went on and did other things. No, that's not him. He's committed to this city. He's been committed to the city. He was born here. He's lived here for over 40 years, right down the street from me, actually, on the north side. And he's committed to this city. And so, if folks don't understand why he would do it, then they just don't know him. He could be an ambassador he could pick a, country, he's close with the president, probably pick a country with a beach and sit out there with Tracy and write a book on leadership during turbulent times. But that's not him. He's a guy who has to get out into the arena and fight the fight for the folks who can't fight it themselves. And that's why I'm supporting him.
Good job. All right. Before we close out and do our closing, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about maybe a policy or something that John Carney may be proposing that would probably not be too helpful for the advancement of Wilmington.
So I think about two things. One of the things Cerron mentioned earlier was around education. And that's something that Carney is leading on. One, right? Like, I have to say at the highest level, right? As governor, right, our education system has dropped to 45th, particularly Black and brown students in Wilmington, right, have the lowest literacy rate across the state, right? While there have been some initiatives to address and reform education in the city of Wilmington, right, is nowhere near enough in what it should be. We look at the opportunity funding that was offered. You mentioned earlier, $60 million, right? That was after he got sued, right? That came. We had to, city had to sue, right, Carney for that. The WLC also came after that lawsuit, right? But as governor, right, yes, there's local control, but you have the ability to hold people accountable to meeting the needs of students. You have the authority, right? Because that authority you vested in other people, but as a governor, you have the authority to hold people accountable. And that's, I think, on that one issue alone, from my standpoint, right, as a surrogate here, from that one issue alone, that is the most detrimental approach policy for Wilmington residents, is that after having been a congressman, after having been lieutenant governor, after having been governor for all these years, and the opportunity to lead, and when in the position to have the most impact on our education system, right? We've seen such a drastic decrease, particularly for Black and brown students who make up majority of the school district populations, right? To then come into the city and say that the goal is to improve the education system. I'm not making the connection I'm not making the connection. And I think that is something that could be highly detrimental as a policy, right? Not saying there's not good intention, right? And I don't want there to be any misconstrued, but like good intention and actual policy and action and leadership are two different things. And I think that is one of those things that would be very detrimental.
Okay. Any rebuttal?
So I understand it. I think, the first person who would say that, who would probably agree with one point that our education system is not performing in the way that it should would be John Carney. It's not something that he would deny to you. I think the thing that we have to focus on and we have to take into consideration is that what happens to a child in a classroom is not just related directly to how much their teacher's making. It's not just related directly only to the resources in the classroom. There's also an impact of what happens when that child goes home. What happens in that community that child goes home to. And anybody, including Darren, who will sit here and tell you that what happens when they walk away from school between the time that they're out of school and the time that they come back to school has just as, if not more, of a significant impact on them as when they get into the classroom. I mentioned some of the areas where John Carney has created the infrastructure for future growth and opportunity in our schools. And to be clear, he was sued, the state was sued because of the state's historic disinvestment in these schools. So it wasn't just John Carney. They didn't just say, John Carney, you're doing a horrible job. It was the state that was sued. Obviously, he is the governor of the state at that time. So, he takes accountability. It was a lawsuit that he actually welcomed and sat down and negotiated some of the things that were already agenda items that he wanted to focus on, which those groups actually agree with. And the opportunity funding is an example of one of those. So I don't necessarily know that it's fair to say that he was forced to do it because of the lawsuit. I think the lawsuit came at an opportune time, which made it a little bit easier, to be clear, to get a lot of these initiatives that historically have been pushed back on. Back onto the, front and center. So, but I would say that coming in as mayor, nobody would have a better understanding of the impact that our communities have than someone who has fought the fight on the other end of constantly pouring more and more resources into our education system. We've put over $100 million in the early childhood education and childcare. In a time period where, 15 years ago, we were putting zero into that category. We've increased spending in our schools. We've built brand new school buildings up and down our state. We've made those significant investments. But the realization that everyone has come to, and folks have already been there, is that what happens when that child goes home is something that no amount of dollars into the classroom are going to solve. And we're getting the results of that in our data. And so coming in as mayor, John Carney has the opportunity to build on what was created between the Wilmington Learning Collaborative, new schools, new investments in our schools, and to take that fight to the communities, to make sure that we're investing in our communities, that when those kids go home, they're coming into an environment where there are activities for them, where there's a loving environment of people who care for them, where there are families who have good paying jobs that are going to help provide them with the support that they need at home, and that will be an opportunity. So it's, you know, there are things that you can do on the governor's side, but the places that we recognize are having the greatest impact on our kids are things that can be done locally in our communities. And that's an opportunity for John Carney to come in and continue the fight that he started at the state level.
Okay, well, first I want to thank you. We get ready to go to our closing comments, and you all have done a phenomenal job of representing your candidates. I want to take a moment just to say to those of you who are watching today that it's important that we be civil with each other. And what you've seen today and what you've experienced is two individuals who have different policy differences. They may have disagreed with this policy, disagree with that person, but at no point was there any name calling. At any point was there any cussing or fussing. They decided that I'm going to articulate our position, and we're going to do it appropriately so that the people can hear what they had to say. That's really critical. For the time that we are living in, it's not a time for arguing and debating and going crazy with each other, but it's really a time to listen carefully so that we can make a sound decision. We have certainly Cerron, who's representing John Carney. We have Brother Darren, who is representing Velda Potter. You have to make a decision. What do you want? You've heard several things. Now, while I'm getting ready to go, before we go to our closing remarks, there is some concern that whether or not, we don't know whether John Carney is willing to debate Velda directly. Do you believe that that is going to happen?
Absolutely. I've never seen John Carney run from a fight, run from a debate, run from an opportunity to share ideas. And so absolutely, I don't even think that's a question.
All right. Well, we're going to look forward to that being scheduled. For those of you watching, stay tuned. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to give them both an opportunity to just share closing comments. But I'm just impressed with the fact that they were able to share their information without stabbing each other and choking each other and causing each other some harm.
We in a church.
I was getting ready to say that. It could be because we're in church. Matter of fact, the next mayor debate, I'm going to make sure it's at church. Right here in Ezion Fair. We'll be right back.
How you guys doing today? My name is Brandon Snow. I'm president of Southbridge Civic Association. I've been a long-term resident of Southbridge. For those who don't know, my grandfather was Willie Snow. We had Snow's store on B and Hill, which was a long-standing staple in the community. I'm here as the new civic president to pledge my transparency and see the growth and prosperity of our community going forward. For those who need to reach me, feel free to reach out to me via email. It is Southbridge Civic Association DE@gmail.com. And if you need to reach me by phone, feel free to reach out as well. I can be reached at 302-363-4788. Thank you.
The world looks a whole lot different depending on where you stand.
Sure does.
From growing up in Wilmington to serving as a diplomat in a country devastated by war, starting 2 small businesses that created jobs, and teaching middle school math in neighborhoods that are too often overlooked and left behind. I'm Matt Meyer, and no matter where I stood, if something was broken, I've always tried to make it better. So when the insider said I had no shot against a 12-year incumbent, I ran for Newcastle County Executive anyway.
Gotta love an underdog.
Knocking on nearly 10,000 doors because our county looks different depending on where you stand, too.
Hey, Mr. Meyer, in our classroom, you always made us show our work.
We put the county checkbook online in the first 6 months to show where your tax dollars are going. We are making our county cleaner and greener, investing in early childhood and mental health services. Started 1,000 kids coding to give low-income students high-income skills. And we created the Hope Center, helping thousands of people get off the streets and into homes. Now, as too many families struggle with the rising costs of housing and healthcare, too many communities go without clean air and clean water. And our schools rank 46th in the nation. I know we can do better. Because we should be a state where every kid gets a great education, where every family has a safe neighborhood they can afford to call home, and every woman makes decisions about her own body.
You got that right.
I'm Matt Meyer, and I'm running for governor so that no matter where you stand, we can all see a brighter future.
Don't forget the website.
And we're back. Well, we're at that moment where we'll be doing our closing arguments, and we want to give you an opportunity, Mr. Rainey, to just share why the people of Wilmington should really seriously give a straight thought to being, to voting for Ms. Velda Potter.
Thank you, Warren, and I appreciate this forum and this space and the opportunity to have this conversation with both of you all. When I think about why someone should vote for Velda, and particularly why I'm supporting Velda, I look at her track record of success, right? We need in Wilmington someone who is a tried, true, and proven leader, and that is who Velda Jones-Potter is, right? She's proven to do that in business. She's proven to have done that in her roles in city government as a finance, as a city treasurer, and in state government as a finance director and state treasurer, right? Wilmington, in a Velda Jones-Potter, would be getting a mayor who is from the city, of the people, and for the people. She wholeheartly believes in a community approach to government, right? And empowering people to have not just their voices heard, but their voices valued, right? And understanding what it is they need, what it is they want, and what it is they want Wilmington to be. And that's really part of the reason why I support Velda. The other aspect really centers around her policies and her approaches, what she's thinking about, the way that Velda is thinking about engaging our youth, all right, and getting our youth involved in programs that will develop them to be the future leaders of our community, right? Not future leaders who are going to leave the community, but stay in the community and help build the community, focusing on getting young people into education, into police, fire, emergency services, into social services, right? To then be able to help create a more vibrant and live community. Her focus on creating a safe community, right? Be for folks of Wilmington being able to walk the streets and not have to worry about, am I safe, right? Not have to worry about, is something going to happen to me, or do I have to worry about, right? Like violence, right? Velda's approach and her thinking around how we decrease the violence and decrease gun violence in our city is something that resonates with me, right? This idea of having intervention programs targeted towards our youth. Her approach to small businesses in helping to develop entrepreneurs, investing in the people of Wilmington so that they can invest in businesses that will benefit the people of Wilmington, right? Ultimately, how I see a Velda Jones-Potter campaign, why I'm supporting a Velda Jones-Potter campaign, and what I believe a Velda Jones-Potter administration will bring to the city of Wilmington is a leader who cares deeply about what it is that the people need, right? Who will listen to the people and bring their ideas, their perspectives, their experiences into every decision that she makes as mayor, so that the people who are most invested in the city, right? Us, those who pay taxes to the city, we benefit from the services that the city is supposed to provide. We benefit most from the services that the city is supposed to provide to its residents. And that's why I support Velda Jones-Potter for
thank you so mayor. Thank you so very much. All right, Mr. Cade.
So I want to thank you, Pastor, for inviting me here today. I want to thank Darren for the lively conversation and debate. And hopefully, regardless of what happens, I can work with you in the future.
Yes, sir.
And all the things that you've kind of highlighted here as focal points. My goal coming here today was to express to some folks who may not know John Carney why I'm incredibly confident in his leadership and his ability to step in as mayor on day one and be able to do the job, and not just do the job well, but do the job in a way that positions our city for future growth and opportunity that every single resident here deserves. I've personally witnessed this. This isn't something that I believe because I read his policy, just because I read his policy agenda, or just because I read about him on Wikipedia. But I've had the opportunity to sit there in a front row seat as his labor secretary, as his budget director, as his director of economic development. And I've had the opportunity to witness this man lead through incredibly uncertain times. I've had the ability to sit back and watch how he's completely reformed our state's budgeting process that has taken us from a place where countless administrations have turned over huge revenue shortfalls to the next administration. He came into this administration and with a $400 million shortfall and turned it into a $500 million surplus with about $460 million in reserves, not having to raise taxes on hardworking Delawareans. I've seen him lead our state through a global pandemic where he made very, very hard decisions that some people questioned at the time, that he was sued for by far-right extremists, but that saved thousands and thousands of lives up and down our state during a very difficult time period. I've seen him invest more money in the city of Wilmington as budget director. I got to see that personally. Than any governor that I've seen in our history. And not investing money into neighborhoods that probably don't need it, but investing money into communities that historically have been left behind. And I've watched it firsthand, and I've watched him not just get it done, but I've watched him fight for it. We mentioned creating Delaware's first weighted student funding model, building the first school in the city in 50 years. These are all things that I've seen in the past. I'm not just confident in our future because I know him. I'm confident in our future because I've seen what he's done in the past and I watch what he's doing now. He is a good man. He is very easy to get along with, other than him being an Eagles fan.
Don't get in trouble.
Other than him being an Eagles fan. But even with that being said, and it's got to be true, because, even with all those things being said, my support for him is rooted in all of these things that I've had an opportunity to sit back and watch. And I hope that the voters out there get an opportunity to do some research, to take a look at where we've been and what we've gone through and who we look to during those difficult times for leadership. And it was John Carney. And when we come to these crossroads and we have these senses of uncertainty, especially at the end of administrations, when you're going into a new administration, you want some stabilizing force that's going to be there, that's going to have folks wake up at night and know that, our police force is going to be run effectively and appropriately, that our policies are going to be there, they're going to benefit the citizens of the city, and that our government is going to be focused on people, on all people, and not just those who are in our most affluent neighborhoods. And I've got all the confidence in the world that John Carney is that guy.
Okay. Well, you've heard it, and now it's in your hands. In September, we will be voting for the candidate who will become the Democratic candidate for mayor, but we know that that person will become the mayor for the city of Wilmington. You had an opportunity again to hear from Mr. Cade as well as from Mr. Rainey, who really shared a lot of information, a lot of really things that we need to think about. And again, I want to thank both of you because we didn't have to get into the name calling. We didn't have to go at each other's throat. We're appreciative to the education that you all have, where y'all have been taught how to act. And I think that's important. And I say things in just only because it's important that we become civil with each other, because that's the only way we're going to be able to make sound decisions. Making decisions off your emotions will never get you anywhere, but it's listening and being able to understand what people are saying, asking the right questions, that we're able to be better. I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you who watched us today. And I hope and trust that God will continue to bless you. Until the next time, God bless.
Thank you for watching this episode of Coffee with Curry. Tune in next week, Sunday at 11 a.m.